You're not welcome at Thanksgiving. My mom announced in front of everyone. Family supports family. You refused to co-sign your sister's $60,000 loan. It is smiled. The next morning, they woke up to frozen accounts, declined cards, and it started the week before Thanksgiving. My mom gathered us in the living room, which should have been a warning in itself. She only ever did that when someone had died or when she wanted to make a spectacle out of something. She was standing next to the fireplace like she was about to deliver a speech. My dad sat in his recliner with his arms crossed in that blank corporate mask he wears when he doesn't want to be held responsible for anything. My sister Lauren was sitting smugly on the arm of the couch wearing a brand new designer hoodie I knew she hadn't paid for herself. I'd just come in from work. I hadn't even taken off my shoes. You're not welcome at Thanksgiving, Olivia. That's how she started. Like I was a neighbor who let their dog crap in her yard, not her daughter. Then came the line she'd clearly rehearsed. Family supports family. You refused to co-sign your sister's $60,000 loan. No one gasped. No one shouted. It was just quiet, but not the normal kind of quiet. The kind where everyone's waiting to see what I'll do. I looked around the room. Julia, my cousin, was there too. She'd flown in early, and I could see the shock on her face. We've always been close, and I could tell she hadn't known this was coming. My uncle and aunt were standing in the back like they'd been dragged into the middle of something they didn't want to be part of. I didn't say anything. I didn't even blink. I just nodded once and walked upstairs. That's what shook them, I think. Because usually I'd argue. Usually, I'd try to explain to justify. But this time, I didn't because I'd seen this coming for a long time. My parents had this fantasy that as long as I lived under their roof, everything I had was theirs too. My salary, my savings, my time. And when Lauren, who hasn't held a job for more than 6 months in the past 5 years, asked for $60,000 to launch her next big business idea, they all looked at me like it was already decided, like I was being difficult for even hesitating. They kept saying things like, "You're her big sister. You should support her. And you've been living here, Rentree. It's the least you can do." As if I wasn't the one paying half the bills and buying groceries for the entire house. As if my parents didn't constantly ask me to cover small things, which always turned out to be anything but small. That night, I packed a bag, grabbed my laptop, and left. I didn't slam any doors. I didn't leave a note. I didn't even tell Julia I was going. I drove to the short-term rental I'd quietly secured a few weeks earlier and turned off my phone. They celebrated Thanksgiving without me, smiled for the camera, posted the usual group photos in front of the Vermont fireplace with matching sweaters and wine glasses, pretended everything was normal. But by then, I'd already moved my direct deposits to a new bank. I'd taken my name off the joint account my dad insisted I help monitor, and I'd frozen access to the emergency card they'd somehow convinced me to open in college, the one they still used without asking. The first text came Friday morning. "Olivia, what the hell is going on? My card just got declined." Then came the flood. My mom called 7 times in a row. My dad emailed me, which he never does, asking if I'd accidentally moved some funds. Julia texted me asking if I was okay and if they'd done something to piss me off. I didn't respond to any of them. I knew what was coming, and for once, I was ready. By Saturday morning, things had shifted from silence to static. My phone lit up with notifications, missed calls, voicemails, texts. Most were from my mom. The rest were from Lauren, who was apparently unraveling faster than I expected. The card she used for everything, gas, food, her precious eyebrow appointments, had been declined twice that morning. She sent me a screenshot circled in red like a warning sign. "Bolivia, fix this. I have nothing in my fridge but condiments." I didn't answer. I just watched it come in, then turned my phone face down and went back to sipping my coffee on the balcony of my new place. A small second-floor rental with peeling paint, but it was mine. The silence here was thick and unbothered. No one stomping past my door demanding to know if I'd paid the electric bill. No one borrowing my credit card to buy their kid a last-minute birthday gift and never paying me back. No Lauren, no guilt, no gaslighting. I knew exactly what I was doing when I left. Before I walked out of that house, I moved every dollar I had from the shared accounts. Not just mine, the ones I was stupid enough to let them add themselves to over the years. They called it a family emergency buffer. I called it theft in slow motion. I cut every financial tie they had to me one by one until the only thing left was the silence that came when the money ran dry. Monday morning, the first rail crack appeared. Not in their finances, but in their pride. I was in the middle of drafting an email at work when the receptionist called my desk. "Your mom's here, says it's urgent." She was waiting downstairs holding a Starbucks cup like it made her presence feel casual. She didn't ask how I was, didn't ask about my job. She launched into a speech about Thanksgiving, about Lauren, about how families don't keep score. I let her talk, then she dropped the line she thought would fix it all. "We didn't mean for you to actually leave." Like it was some game. Like the whole dramatic announcement in front of the family was just a bluff, one I was never supposed to call. She looked genuinely confused, like she expected me to still be there, sleeping in my old room, funding their problems out of loyalty or guilt or habit. Then she told me Lauren was behind on rent and threatening to come back home, that their utilities were overdue, that they were hosting some people from their church next weekend and didn't know how they'd afford food for everyone. I asked her what that had to do with me. She blinked like I'd slapped her. I didn't argue. I didn't even explain. I just said, "Good luck." Then I turned and walked back to the elevator. That night, Julia finally called. She said the family group chat had blown up. Lauren was telling everyone I'd stolen from our parents, that I'd taken their savings and left them with nothing. I didn't bother correcting her. I just said, let her prove it. Let anyone ask for receipts. Let him check who paid the mortgage the last 2 years. Who bought the groceries? Who co-signed the car Lauren drove until she totaled it. By Wednesday, the messages shifted tone again. My dad sent a long one about how disappointed he was. He said they were struggling now, really struggling, and asked if I could help just for this month until they figured things out. He didn't ask if I was okay, just what I could give. I texted back, "I'm not coming back. Not to the house, not to the accounts, not to the games." His reply came 5 minutes later. "You'll regret this." Maybe he thought I would. Maybe he thought I'd miss the feeling of being useful, being needed. But all I felt that night was peace. Thanksgiving Day came with freezing rain. The kind that clung to windows and soaked through jackets. No matter how fast you ran to the car, I didn't run anywhere. I stayed in bed longer than usual. Phone on silent, letting the quiet fill every corner of the small apartment. It still smelled faintly like the cinnamon candle I lit the night before. The floor was cold. The radiator clicked like it was trying its best, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Around noon, I made coffee and opened my laptop just out of curiosity. I knew they'd be posting. They were addicted to appearances. And there it was. Flannel pajamas, candles lit on the fireplace, an awkward group photo that looked stitched together with forced smiles. My mom had posted a story of the dinner table, but if you looked closely, it wasn't quite their usual spread. No full turkey, no expensive centerpiece. There was pie, but not her usual kind. Looked like store-bought pumpkin. Lauren wasn't in most of the photos, and when she did appear, she looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Julia texted me a single line halfway through dinner. They served leftovers and lied about it. Turns out most of the Thanksgiving meal had come from a church donation box. They told the guests it was a new tradition to avoid food waste. My mom even passed it off like some kind of sustainability effort. Julia said my name came up at least 5 times, not in anger, but like a puzzle they couldn't solve. No one understood why I hadn't reached out, not even to argue, especially not to apologize. That's when I realized how deeply they believed I was part of their machinery, like I was an extension of their lives. They really thought I'd crack by the holiday and call in tears, asking to come home, offering to fix everything if they just let me back in. It had worked before. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I baked a tray of stuffing in my own oven. Nothing fancy, just from the box, but I seasoned it how I liked, made roasted sweet potatoes, had wine from a bottle I bought with my own card, and watched a movie I hadn't had time to watch in years. When I paused it halfway through to eat dessert, I laughed at how ridiculous it was that I'd gone this long, thinking peace was a luxury. Turns out peace was just not living with people who drained you dry and still expected more. By Friday, the facade began to crack. My dad called again. This time, he didn't start with guilt or threats. He said Lauren's landlord had sent a warning about eviction. She'd missed 2 months of rent, apparently banking on a Thanksgiving miracle. He said Lauren had been sleeping until noon, refusing to job hunt and snapping at everyone who suggested it. I didn't need to ask what that felt like. I'd lived with her for years. Then came the real reason for the call. He wanted to know if I'd consider returning home temporarily. He said we could rebuild things, that we were stronger together, that I could help get everyone back on their feet. Help, he meant fund. I told him no, that I was done, that I hoped they figured things out, but I wouldn't be part of it anymore. He got quiet. Then he said something. I could tell he'd been saving for the right moment. "You're being ungrateful." I hung up. Saturday morning, my mom emailed me. Long formal like she was writing to a landlord. She listed bills, gas, electric, a missed car payment, said they were trying to keep the house stable, but things were tight without my contribution. Then she asked for $2,000. Said it would help restore some balance. Said it would show I still cared. I thought about it for a long time. Then I sent it. Not because they earned it. Not because I forgave them, but because I wanted to be done. I wanted the line drawn so clearly that even they couldn't pretend otherwise. Along with the transfer, I sent one message. This is the last time. 2 days later, Lauren texted me for the first time in over a week. That's it. Seriously, you're worth way more than that. I stared at that message for a long time. It was everything I needed to see. Who she was, who they were, and what they thought I owed them. So, I blocked her. Then, I blocked my mom, then my dad. I deleted the old family group chat, changed every password, and locked every account I could. That night, I slept better than I had in years. And not once did I regret it. I really thought that would be the end of it. After I blocked them, it was quiet. For once, really quiet. Not just in my apartment, but in my head. No buzzing of dread every time my phone lit up. No more wondering if they'd guilt-trip me or drag me into some mess. It was like I'd finally pulled the plug on the constant pressure to fix problems I didn't cause. I started sleeping better. I cooked meals that no one criticized. I rearranged my little apartment and bought a second-hand couch I didn't have to ask permission for. It wasn't fancy, but it was the first piece of furniture I'd ever picked entirely for myself. Every night, I lit a candle, played music, and sat on that couch in peace. Then 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, my phone rang. But it wasn't them. It was HR. They asked me to come to the office for a quick chat. That phrase should have tipped me off. I walked in, sat down across from my manager and the HR rep, and they handed me a printed email. No greeting, no signature, just a long block of text sent from a generic Gmail account. The accusations were wild, that I was using company funds to support illegal family investments, that I was accessing confidential data during off hours, and that I'd been manipulating financial records for personal gain. It sounded like someone watched a few crime dramas and decided to try their hand at corporate sabotage. They didn't name anyone, but I knew immediately. Lauren couldn't reach me, so she went for my job. The HR rep said they weren't accusing me of anything, but they had to investigate every report seriously. I had to go through 2 days of meetings, digging through my activity logs and proving line by line that I hadn't done anything wrong. It shook me more than I wanted to admit. I'd worked so hard to build that career. Late nights, early mornings, pushing through burnout just to prove I deserved to be there. And now my own family was trying to tear it down. I drove home that night in silence, sat in my car outside my apartment for almost an hour. I didn't even cry. I was too angry to cry. That's when I called a lawyer. Not for revenge. Not yet. Just to find out what protections I had. I gave her everything. The shared account records, the texts about the $60,000 loan, the email from HR, and the voicemail my mom left from a new number pretending she was worried about me. The lawyer told me I had a case if it escalated. Defamation, harassment, even fraud. If they touched anything in my name. She told me to start documenting everything. Every call, every message, every weird little thing they did. I didn't think it could get worse. Then Julia called. She sounded breathless, angry, said Lauren had been calling around to family, telling them I was in serious financial trouble, that I'd lost my job, that I was too proud to ask for help. She told them I was depressed, alone, mentally unstable. She told them I was blowing through money and might be in debt. She even said, and this part made my skin crawl, that if they wanted to help, they could send donations to her account and she'd make sure I got it discreetly. Lauren had created an entire fake crisis, using my name to collect money from relatives who didn't even like her. I felt something crack open inside me. I called my bank immediately and locked everything down, changed every password, froze my credit, filed a fraud alert. The next morning, I went to the police station and filed a report. I didn't know if they'd do anything right away, but I needed something on record. She so much as opened a Target card under my name. I wanted her stopped cold. Then I made one final move. I recorded a video. I didn't post it publicly. I just sent it to Julia. In it, I calmly laid out everything. The family financial abuse, the attempted loan scam, the HR report, the fraud scheme Lauren was now pulling. I asked Julia to show it to anyone in the family who asked. Let him see my face. Let him hear the truth from my mouth. If not Lawrence's. The fallout started slowly. One of my uncles messaged me an apology. My aunt, the one who always acted like Lauren walked on water, sent me a long awkward email about how she didn't know the full story. And Julia texted me. They're finally seeing her for who she really is. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet, because people like Lauren don't go quietly. And I had a feeling this wasn't her final move. December slipped in like an unwanted guest. Unannounced. Heavy and cold in all the ways that sneak up on you. I was still working full-time, still cooking for one, still trying to convince myself that everything was finally under control. The lawyer was on standby. My finances were locked down tighter than a vault. I wasn't answering unknown numbers anymore, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Then Lauren came to my door. It was a Saturday morning, gray skies, freezing wind, and there she was, leaning against the railing in front of my building like she had every right to be there. No warning, no call. Just showed up, hoodie up, hands stuffed into her jacket like she was hiding something. She tried to make it sound casual. Said she just wanted to clear the air. Claimed Mom was sick now and that I was making things harder than they needed to be. She even went as far as saying she forgave me. Forgive me. I stood there holding a bag of groceries while she fed me rehearsed lines. Told me I was still family and I shouldn't let money ruin what we had. And then she pulled out a piece of paper and said she just needed one more thing. One signature for a lease. I didn't even look at it. I told her if she ever came back to this building again, I'd call the police. That I didn't owe her a single word. She muttered something under her breath and stormed off. Didn't even look back. I watched her get into a rideshare car that was probably charged to someone else's account and drive off like none of it had happened. But it had. The next day, my mailbox was broken into. Not my apartment, just the mail slot downstairs. Pried open with something sharp. The lock was bent and half the contents were gone. Not the junk. Just the good stuff. Bank documents, a letter from my insurance, a prepaid card I'd been waiting for. I reported it immediately. The landlord said they'd never had an issue before. I knew who it was. I couldn't prove it, but I knew. I moved all my statements online and had the rest forwarded to a P.O. box across town. A pain, but better than waiting around for the next stunt. That same night, I got a fraud alert. Someone had tried opening a line of credit at a jewelry store in New Jersey. Then again the next day, this time at a dealership. I hadn't left the state. I hadn't even left the city. My name was being passed around like a blank check. I called my lawyer the next morning. She didn't even hesitate. This isn't family drama anymore. She said, this is criminal. She filed another report. This time it was more serious. She contacted the store where the credit attempt was made and requested surveillance footage. She sent a cease and desist letter directly to my parents addressed specifically to Lauren's certified tract delivered with a timestamp and signature. I thought that would stop it, but then my mom left me a voicemail from yet another new number. She sounded calm at first, but her words were sharp. We got your letter, Olivia, and we're heartbroken. But if you keep this up, we'll be forced to fight back like it was a war I started. Like I was threatening them by protecting myself. She went on for 3 full minutes. Talked about how I'd abandoned the family, how I'd humiliated them, how Lauren was trying her best. Said if I made this public, if I took it further, I'd regret it. She didn't say how. He didn't need to. I replayed the message 3 times, not because I didn't understand it, but because I wanted to remember every word. The next morning, I gave the lawyer the voicemail. She filed it into the growing folder labeled Family Harassment and Fraud. Olivia M. I didn't cry. I didn't panic, but something in me shifted. This wasn't miscommunication anymore. It wasn't a family falling out or a bad holiday. It was sabotage. It was calculated, dangerous, and personal. And they weren't just trying to bring me back. They were trying to ruin me if I didn't. I sat on my used couch that night in the glow of a single lamp. The room dead quiet. I looked around at everything I'd built, small as it was, and realized something brutal. They weren't trying to get me back. They were trying to make sure I had nothing without them. And that was the last mistake they'd ever make. January rolled in quiet and heavy, like the kind of silence that doesn't mean peace. Just a pause before something worse. I had done everything right. Locked down my credit, moved my banking, filed the police report, forwarded everything to my lawyer. I rotated passwords weekly, flagged all inquiries, and set alerts for any activity tied to my name. I thought I was ahead of them. I thought I'd built a wall too high for them to climb, but they didn't need to climb. They started digging under. The first sign was small. My landlord left a note on my door. Please come by when you have a moment. No big deal. Or so I thought. When I stepped into his office, he looked uncomfortable. Said he'd received an anonymous email. No name. Just a generic address. It accused me of bringing criminal attention to the building. Said I was under investigation for fraud and had been involved in a family dispute that turned violent. I stared at him in disbelief. He looked down and said he didn't believe it, but he had to document it. For the building's safety, they were trying to get me evicted. The moment I got back to my apartment, I sat down and wrote a complete timeline. Not just the attacks, but how each one escalated. First, the cosign guilt trip, then the public Thanksgiving humiliation, the frozen accounts, the mailbox break-in, the fake HR report, the credit fraud, the smear campaigns, now this. Every incident tied back to them. But what chilled me most, they were willing to make me homeless just to punish me for saying no. I called my lawyer that night. He didn't hesitate. She told me to prepare everything for a formal protective order. This was beyond harassment now. It was targeted, deliberate, and malicious. I gave her all the documents, messages, voicemails, even a printed copy of the anonymous eviction email. Then came the final voicemail from my mom. New number again. She said they got the cease and desist, that they were shocked I'd go that far. She claimed they never meant to hurt me, just wanted to push me back to reality. Then she said it. If you take this further, Olivia, you're not just cutting us off. You're declaring war on your own family. That's when I knew this wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't even about Lauren. It was about control. About making sure I never felt safe unless I was kneeling at their feet, thanking them for letting me exist. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I saved the voicemail and sent it to my lawyer. Then Julia messaged me, "Check Lauren's Instagram." I did. And there was a carousel of photos, her looking sad on the porch, a blurry shot of my childhood bedroom, and a caption that read, "I lost my sister this year. Not to death, but to greed. She chose money over family. Over me." Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments from people who didn't know me didn't care to ask, telling her how strong she was. One said, "You deserve better. Blood doesn't mean loyalty." I almost laughed. Then Julia sent me a screenshot from Lauren's alt account, a comment she posted under her own photo using a fake profile. I said, "She'll come crawling back. They always do." That was the moment something in me snapped. Not with rage, not even sadness, just clarity. They weren't trying to win me back. They were trying to erase the version of me that didn't need them. So, I wrote one last email. Sent it directly to both of them. Just 3 lines. "I am no longer your daughter. You are no longer my responsibility. Try me again and we'll settle this in court." Then I vanished. Moved apartments. New job offer in a new city. No forwarding address. No updated contact info. Only Julia knew where I went and she promised to never say a word. I left behind everything they thought they could keep using. Changed my number. Closed every last door. And for the first time truly and finally I was free. I gave them every opportunity to act like a family. They chose to act like enemies. Now they can live with the silence they created and the daughter they lost. They still try sometimes. Little things. A Christmas card sent to my old P.O. box with no return address. A cousin's wedding invitation with a scribbled "Hope you'll reconsider" next to my name. I don't respond. I don't open anything from them anymore. Julia keeps me updated when I ask, but otherwise I let it all fade into background noise because what they don't realize is I didn't just walk away from them. I walked towards something better. Myself, my peace, my life finally mine. And no amount of guilt, sabotage, or manipulation will ever pull me back into their shadow.